Stay Doomed is part of the IWEP Podcast Network.
Good evening, grave robbers, and welcome back to the Movie Mausoleum. We have come here tonight to examine the spirits of Razzie Month.
Razzie Month.
The intro's just fallen apart entirely.
Yeah.
By Razzie Month.
Yeah, I've noticed.
So much of it is TV-centric that I end up having to rewrite a lot of it. So, welcome to the last episode of Razzie Month. With me, as always, is TV's Noah Houlihan.
That's every line Karen says.
Yeah, we are doing the last Worst Picture nominee, Karen.
Yes, so this will finish off Razzie Month.
This will.
What a shame. But we are going to hopefully go out with a bang here, and we're going to start by pouring one out. Question mark. Laura?
Yeah?
What you got there?
Donut.
Donut.
Well, and one of the evil cops drops a box of donuts when he hears shots fired, so he pours out the donuts.
So you just have a donut?
I have a donut.
Take a sip of your donut. Your donut has ice in it. She grabbed her cup for some reason instead of her donut.
You said take a sip, and I was like, a sip.
I tried to make the best of a bad situation, so I went all out.
You did. You really...
For mine. I made, because there's a character who makes a pecan pie.
Yes.
In this one. So I have a pecan pie shot. It is 2 parts vanilla almond milk, 1 part vodka with a teaspoon of brown sugar, a little bit of cinnamon and vanilla extract, and some crushed pecans.
Oh, look at you, fancy. Mm-hmm. Where'd you get the pecans?
Out of my mixed nuts.
Oh, okay. We also have the salad pecans, and I was like, oh, those are flavored with garlic, and I hope you did not use those.
That would be terrible.
Yeah, I was like, oh, no.
You know when you have a really nice slice of pecan pie, and then it just burns all the way down your chest?
Ooh.
That's what I got. You want some pecan pie?
No, I'm good.
All right. I won't have any of your donut.
Good.
All right. Let's get into Catherine, which, by the way...
Karen?
Did I say Catherine?
You did.
Catherine's a video game I like. I'd much rather be talking about. Let's get into Karen, which I want to start by saying is the first Razzie Month film we had to pay money for.
Yeah, we had to pay $3 whole to rent it.
We had to rent this terrible movie off of Amazon Prime. So if you wanted to watch before you listen, thanks for being loyal, but welcome back. This was a rough one. I would like to start by wondering how this has 4.5 stars on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, I don't know who liked this movie.
Yeah, because it's... Ooh.
We open with the titular Karen washing off the words Black Lives Matter, which have been sidewalk chalked.
Yes.
Like, just washing off,
washing it away. Like, that's our opening shot. So it's like, oh, okay. This woman sucks.
Yeah, like, it's actually, like, a very strong image of, like, okay, it tells you a lot about who this person is.
Yeah. I think it's a strong image, but, like, Karen is already, in my opinion, too much of a villain.
Yeah.
Like, she needed a line here that was just like, no chalk on the sidewalk. Like, something that could have... Because this is what a Karen does. If you don't know, Karen is slang for a white woman who uses her power of complaining for evil. As opposed to for good, I guess. But everything that she does is, she's just trying to uphold rules and do what is right. It would have made more sense for the film had she just been anti-sidewalk chalk and tried to play it off like it doesn't matter what it said. Rules are rules. That feels more Karen-y instead of it being like, look at the evil woman.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely try to set her up like that in the beginning, in the first half of the movie, besides that. So we get the establishing shots of the neighborhood, and it's the Harvey Hills Plantation neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And it's a nice, standard neighborhood.
It's a cul-de-sac.
It's a suburban cul-de-sac.
Yes.
Like, it's nothing out of the ordinary. And we hear, like, sinister music as a young black couple hugs in their new living room, and they're excited because they're like, we're finally home.
Yeah.
Like, they've just bought the house. And they are Imani and Malik.
Yes.
I don't know if they're named yet in this scene, but we do find out their names. So, unlike in Infinite, we do actually know their names.
Yes.
And then we kind of get the establishing moment for Karen and her family. She asks her son if he did his homework, and then she doesn't like her daughter's outfit.
Yes.
And she's like, go in, and her daughter's young. Like, she's like, go wear what I put out on your bed.
Yeah, she's like, what, 8? Maybe?
3rd grade, so that would be like 9 usually.
9? So
then an Asian woman comes and she chats with Karen in her incredibly bad wig.
Yes.
And they establish that Karen's part of the HOA.
Yes.
And that Karen is their neighbor. And that the Asian woman is also part of the HOA.
Yes. The Asian woman comes up and says, like,
hey, Karen. Hey. New neighbors. And they're black. Yeah, I noticed. Well, I have to go. Busy day.
Problem. Okay. Well, I'll see you at the HOA meeting. Okay.
It's very The Room.
Yeah.
Where this person makes the effort to enter, say 3 lines, and then is in a rush.
Yes.
He's like, I gotta get going. It's like, you just got here.
And I have to call her an Asian woman because we never find out her name.
Do we never find out her name?
No, there's a number of characters whose names we never find out.
Oh.
So the young couple, Malik and Imani, are talking about conceiving.
Yes.
And they realize that their neighbor, Karen, is putting up home security cameras. And Imani goes like, that's weird. There's almost 0 crime in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
And we establish that Imani works from home and Malik works outside the home.
Yes. Malik is like, hey, let's get to work on conceiving. And she's like, I'm busy. And he's like, it won't take long. And she's like, you're not a 1-minute man. So it's this, the argument that's taking place is, you are too good at sex that I don't have time or energy for this.
Yeah, she was like, yeah, you say that, but in an hour, we're going to be like, naked and asleep.
Yeah, passed out on our backs. It's just like, what a champagne problem.
Well, and
her sex life is so good.
But it's establishing that they are, a functional, loving couple.
The way it is said made me laugh, and this will be the last time I enjoy the film. So,
Malik is trying to leave the house, and Karen introduces herself to him. Mm-hmm. And then also says, like, she's he tries to shake hands, and she's like, oh, no, I'm a germaphobe.
I'm a germaphobe. So this is the 2 major problems I have with this actress's performance.
Yeah.
1, she always sounds drunk.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's a choice, like she's a Karen wine mom.
Yeah.
But she's always slurring her words.
I think it is a choice because we do frequently see her drinking wine.
This is true. The other weird thing is she has her sunglasses on.
Yeah.
And when she walks up to the car, she looks like she's 18 years old. And then they give a close-up on her face, and she looks like she's 65 years old.
Yes,
And I was like, what happened? Like, did we go through a time warp?
He makes a comment about the security cameras, and she immediately accuses him of casing the joint.
I saw all the cameras around your house and whatnot, and
So you've been looking at my house?
No. I mean, I just so happen to see you have
'Cause
so
you're
many.
casing the joint.
Casing.
We don't have any cash.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
And then she pretends she's joking. Mm-hmm. And then she's like, you have to take your trash cans up to the curb off the curb as soon as the garbage truck comes.
Yes.
Which is what she'd been complaining to the other neighbor too. Mm-hmm. And then she like pretends she's joking about the casing the joint thing.
Yeah.
But she's like, but really, the trash cans. Mm-hmm. So this idea that like everything is rules.
Yes. She's the head of the HOA. She also like brings up that she's part of the neighborhood watch.
Yeah.
Like trying to just float these things out that like she's watching and like don't try to get things by her. All these terrible microaggressions.
Yes.
My next note is, this is so not fun. This was listed as a dark comedy.
So then Karen is in a restaurant with her friend who never gets a name. And she runs into a cop who we establish is her brother, Mike. And her friend's like, your brother's so hot. Mm. And you're like, oh, is this going to be a plot point? No. Well, we never see the friend again, I don't think. She might be in the HOA meetings, but she doesn't do anything.
No, she doesn't.
And and then like Karen says like, I have new neighbors. And the friend is like, oh yeah, really? And she goes, they're black. And the friend takes that very seriously.
Oh.
Yeah, like it's very, very, very serious. Mm-hmm. And then a few tables away, there's two black men.
Yes.
Just having a normal conversation, and one laughs. Mm-hmm. So then she goes and yells at him for laughing too loud.
Yeah, stop causing, like, a disturbance.
Yeah.
And the two men just kind of look at her like, really?
Yeah, because they're not really doing anything odd.
Yeah.
They're not even really being particularly loud, because that's the point.
So then she goes and sits down and, like, there is another just kind of, like, laugh that takes place between the two men.
Yeah.
Karen gets up and goes, like, with glee, goes to the manager and points at the table. And then in the next shot, both men have been removed from the restaurant.
Yeah.
Which, the whole, like, Karen thing, I feel like comes from the perspective of people in the service industry.
Yes.
So I was like, this kind of, like, breaks what I think a Karen is. Because, like, a manager should roll his eyes at her.
Yeah, I mean...
And the fact that it just kind of, like, jump cuts to them being outside, I was just like, oh.
Or it would have... Yeah, because, like, a manager of a restaurant would probably not kick two black customers out unless he was sympathetic to Karen.
Yes.
But we don't really see enough to know that that's the case. Because otherwise, like, that's a PR nightmare.
Exactly. This is clearly a movie that's trying to make a statement about race.
Yeah.
Rather than a dark comedy about a Karen.
Right.
So, like, the fact that they skip, and, like, we don't hear what she says to the manager. It's just, like, mimed.
Yeah.
Is the moment I'm like, oh, there's not going to be any comedy in this movie. Because that's where you would put the comedy, is right there. And I was like, oh, this movie's not going to be fun at all. This is just going to be a drag for 90 minutes. Cool.
So, later on, Karen catches Malik smoking weed in his car, and we establish that Imani does not know he smokes weed.
Yeah.
And she asks him if he could smoke up the street so her kids can't smell it.
Yeah.
Which, at that point, reasonable.
Yeah.
Like, this takes place, I believe, in Georgia, and I don't actually know what the weed laws are down there.
Yeah, like...
But if it took until 2021 for it to be legal in New Jersey, I can't imagine it's legal in Georgia.
Like, I know when we were in another apartment, I said this to my neighbor. I was like, hey, man, I don't care, but I really don't want to smell it all day.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, okay. And, like, from me, who's a cool person. But, like, I just kind of walked up to him and was like, hey, I don't care, but I can smell it. And I've heard people complain in this neighborhood before. It was me trying to be friendly. This is clearly not friendly.
Yeah, and it's very illegal in Georgia. I just looked it up.
Oh, it's extremely illegal in Georgia?
But, like, at that point... But then, like, the conversation just keeps escalating, and it just becomes way less subtle.
Yeah, it very much becomes clear that it really has nothing to do with the marijuana.
Yeah.
It's, she needed a reason to talk to him.
Yeah.
And, like, needle him. But also, she's subtly attractive to him.
Yes.
Like, she makes comments about his hands and
like,
stuff.
she has a creepy crush on him.
Yeah.
Which, like, is, you know, the sexualization of black men by white women.
Yes.
Yeah, like, you get the impression that Karen probably wouldn't have ratted on our neighbor, who was best described as Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
Yes, our actual neighbor.
Yeah, the neighbor that you talked to. He was a very Shaggy from Scooby-Doo-esque gent.
Ruh-roh.
So, you get the impression that Karen probably wouldn't have bothered. Mm-hmm. Or if she had, the conversation would have ended at, well, thank you for saying you'll do it up the street.
Yeah.
So he comes in, Amani didn't make dinner, and she's been distracted. And they, like, have a whole needless conversation about how, like, they can order something, and then he's like, no, I'll eat this apple.
None of this is important.
No. And then they realize that they have a white entitled neighbor named Karen, and they go like, yeah, and she's nosy, and they both laugh. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, the joke of the show, the joke of the movie.
And this will be the only joke in this movie.
Is that her name is Karen.
Like, this exact joke happens a few times. It's like, yeah, there's a Karen next door. What's her name? Karen. Yeah, but what's her name?
What's her name? Karen.
Right, but what's her real name?
Karen, I just told you that.
So, Karen is a Karen. Boy, God has a sense of humor.
So then we get another creepy teenager, because we didn't have enough of those in Woman in the Window.
Yes.
And it's Karen's son. Mm-hmm. And he is doing the peeping Tom thing out his window, because his window faces into Amani and Malik's window.
Yes.
And they are about to make love.
Yes. By a very open window.
Yes. Karen catches him, she yells at him to get downstairs, and then she starts watching them.
She starts watching. We don't see what's happening, but we hear Karen coo.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to include the audio of that.
No.
If it wasn't there, you're welcome. And if it was there, you're welcome.
And then Karen's daughter calls up the stairs and breaks the spell, and Karen goes downstairs to her family.
Yes.
So then we get a scene where we establish a few things, that Malik and Amani are having trouble conceiving.
Yes.
And Malik has a gun in his nightstand.
Yes, because they hear a noise.
Yeah, Amani did not want him to have the gun. Right. And they see that their garbage can is knocked over.
Yes, they run outside with flashlights, because apparently there are no lights
in this nice
cul-de-sac. And, like, it is so dark that I can't really tell you what happens in this scene. It looks like a scene from The Descent.
Yeah.
Because they're only lit by their own flashlights. And it turns out that their trash has been knocked over by a dog that we will never see again. That's a picture wrap on the dog. Give it up. He's a very good boy.
He is a very good boy.
We will never see him again.
Despite him knocking over trash cans, he's a very good boy.
They notice that one of Karen's cameras is pointed directly at them.
Yeah.
We then cut inside, where Karen is seated up with monitors all around her, all watching her neighbor's house, with evil lighting just on her, while she smokes a cigarette, going, And
drinks wine.
Oh, and drinking wine. I'm watching you. This is so dumb. Because in my mind, what is so evil about a Karen is they are using their privilege for evil, unaware that really what they're doing is wrong.
Yeah, for them it's Tuesday.
Yeah, they're just like, I can't believe this is happening to me. Oh my God. She is like Dr. Claw here.
Yes.
She's so clearly evil that I was like, okay, you're removing all like fun and commentary about this stigma from this and just trying to make a weird horror movie, which is a weird choice.
Yeah. So then we get a scene where Amani goes over to introduce herself to Karen. Mm-hmm. And that's when she offers the pecan pie.
Yes, which I'm currently drinking.
And in that time, Karen informs Amani about her peeping Tom son and asks them to get curtains. Mm-hmm. And Amani is very normally like, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
We'll fix that right away. And then during this, Malik and the voyeur son, Kyle, are playing basketball. And it's a perfectly friendly conversation. We find out, like, oh, Kyle goes to this high school and he plays for the team. And Malik's like, oh, one of these days we'll come see one of your games.
Yes, and then that's a picture wrap on the son. You thought it was going to do something interesting with him, like, starting a relationship with this man and being a peeping Tom. Nope, that's a picture wrap. We won't be seeing you again.
No.
Great job, son.
We will never see him again.
We'll never see him again.
So then Karen asks Malik to help her put antifreeze in her car.
Yeah.
And she, like, jostles it, so he spills it all over his hands and shirt.
Yes.
I want to point out he lives next door.
Lives next door. We screamed this the whole time.
And he's like, oh, let me come in and use your bathroom so I can wash my hands. And she's like, I'll wash your shirt for you. Just take it off. And he's like, no, just wash my hands.
Just gotta wash my hands. You live next door. And then he's like, where's the bathroom? You live next door. It's a new development. All the houses are identical.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that part.
We know this.
And then she's like, oh, it's like the second door on the right. And he immediately forgets. And then my next note says, simply, just go home.
Just go home, where you know the bathroom. I guess he just moved in. Maybe he doesn't know where his own bathroom is.
That's true.
So maybe Karen can help him there. But she goes second door on the left. And he walks down a hallway and goes, did she say the first or second door on the left? And then goes straight.
Yeah.
It's not like he confused left and right. It's not like he confused first and second. He just continues down the hallway and finds a room that's with evil lighting and all the monitors.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, this is bad. He then turns right into the bathroom, which was open.
Yeah.
So how could you not know where the bathroom was? The door wasn't closed.
And in her bathroom...
Use your eyes.
And in her bathroom, she has a Confederate flag soap dispenser and a portrait of Robert E. Lee. Now, I want to say something here. My uncle is a Civil War enthusiast.
Yes.
My uncle does not have a Confederate-themed bathroom. And he is actually super into the Civil War.
Yes.
Like, I think his home decor is like... He does have, like, a cuckoo clock.
A cuckoo clock. I remember seeing the cuckoo clock and being like, that's interesting. He's like Civil War. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
He does enactments and stuff. Reenactments. I'm sorry. Enactments would be completely different.
No. He watches them.
Oh, he doesn't participate?
No, he does not participate in them.
This is just...
But if he dragged my cousin to one more battlefield as a kid, so help me God.
Like... She might as well have an Evil League of Evil, like, Bad Horse poster.
Oh, yeah.
This. It's like... It's so on the nose and so stupid that I can't take the film seriously. That it's just like, and it's going to a level of ridiculous without comedy. Like, if there was jokes in this, I could probably get behind this level of ridiculous.
Yeah.
But there's no jokes.
No.
It's just bad.
They respond by they put cameras up.
Yes.
Amani and Malik are now putting up their own security cameras. Yes. And then in a scene that we don't need, the salesman is sleazy and hits on Amani.
Yes.
And we established, like, she's married and he's like, ooh, my favorite kind.
Yeah. And shows off his wedding ring.
And that's a wrap on that guy.
That's a picture wrap on that guy. We set up this weird guy. That's a picture wrap for him. We will never see him again. That's a director's friend he owed a favor to. He's like, yeah, I'll put you in the movie. Do you mind being a sleaze?
So we get an HOA meeting, and Karen is complaining about Amani and Malik. Mm-hmm. And her Asian neighbor calls Karen racist.
Yes.
And Karen's like, no. And so, to, I guess, prove she's not a racist, Karen bothers Amani while she's jogging and invites herself to their housewarming party. Mm-hmm. And so, that night at the housewarming party, she gets there and then she, like, weirdly flirts with Malik.
There's so much just crap in this. Yeah. She's weirdly flirting with Malik. She comes up to Amani and the first thing she says is,
There she is, slaving away in the kitchen.
it's one of those things where if you had played this, because this whole scene is just going to be like an awkward family reunion. The bad Thanksgiving discussion is about to take place. If they had played this, like Karen knew exactly what she was doing and trying to needle and just kind of like playing chess, like, I'm not going to say anything actually that offensive. It's all turns of phrase, and use that to get them angry.
Yeah.
That would have been a good, interesting choice. Had she also played it that she was legitimately unaware that the word she was saying was hurtful, and she's just that ignorant, that would have been an interesting choice. By not making either choice, this is just a stupid, useless scene that just upsets everyone.
Yeah.
Because, like, she sits down with strangers that she does not know. One of the strangers says Black Lives Matter, and she goes, don't you mean all lives matter? I was like, no one would actually do this.
Yeah, and so that becomes a whole argument. And we also established that the two men she got kicked out of the restaurant are friends with Malik and Amani and are at the party.
Are at the party.
And they're like, oh, that chick got us kicked out of the restaurant. Karen? Yeah, the Karen. What's her name? Karen. So during the all lives matter argument, Karen snaps, you people are very angry.
Yes.
And the fashion choices in this scene are really interesting. All of Malik and Amani's guests are wearing like earrings in the shape of Africa, things with the Pan-African flag on them.
Yes.
Like, they're all wearing...
ham-handed, trying to show what the sides are here.
And Karen is wearing a white dress. Mm-hmm. So it's very, very heavy-handed. And then she tells them...
text appears on the screen that says, get it, it's symbolism. I don't want you to miss this.
Like... And then she tells them, like, if they don't like it, they can go back to Africa.
It's so bad.
And eventually Amani and Malik are like, you should leave.
Yeah.
And she's upset that they want her to leave, but they eventually do get her to leave. And...
she's upset because they were going to play Boggle.
Oh, yeah, like, we were going to play games.
We were going to play Boggle.
So... we get another scene with Amani and Malik, and they're worried about how they're going to afford the baby because they now have a mortgage. Mm-hmm. And thinking about this I was like, oh, you can tell this was made before the pandemic because post-pandemic, everyone's like, oh, if you were paying rent, the mortgage is usually cheaper.
I don't think it was.
You think this was... oh, you know what?
There's a shot where the movers are wearing masks.
And you're right, like... and this was kind of made as a reaction, I think, to summer 2021. Mm-hmm. Or to summer 2020, rather. You're 100% right.
Yeah, everything about this is so weird. And unenjoyable and not good.
Oh, yeah, principal photography began in December 2020.
Yep.
So it was... you're right.
So, Karen is now, like, muttering to herself... because she got thrown out of the party and I'm wine drunk. And then she walks over to her neighbors and goes, and trash night's not till tomorrow. And she knocks over their trash can and runs away like Dear Evan Hansen.
Exactly like Dear Evan Hansen.
I was like, oh, I know that run. Remember that movie we could have done?
Yeah.
We just didn't vote for it hard enough. I have a whole rant about this later. I'm sorry.
So, the next scene, Karen flips Amani's trash can, and Amani and her daughter, or excuse me, Amani and Karen's daughter.
Karen's daughter kind of like walks over.
And she starts helping, and she's a third grader. She's very sweet. She's talking to Amani, and then I have a note of you yelling, "Cool backpack."
Because it's very much like an adult talking to a child poorly. Like, so what grade are you in? Third grade. I bet that means you have a lot of friends. It's like, cool backpack. I bet you eat a lot of chicken nuggets.
So, but then we established that Sarah has a little third grade boyfriend.
Yes, Kobe.
Because his dad's a big Lakers fan. But Kobe is black and Karen doesn't know.
Yes.
And Sarah's like, my mom doesn't like black people. And Amani's like, well, I'm black. And the daughter goes, and she doesn't like you.
Yeah.
But we get this in these very weird, full head-on shots.
Like, it had been a two-shot the whole time, and then all of a sudden it was these weird, like, down-the-lens close-ups. I don't know if it meant to invoke Star Wars, stay with me, but it was very much the, like, he doesn't like you. I don't like you either. That delivery.
Yeah.
And, like, the shots, it was so weird. And they're establishing that this little girl, who's in third grade, is way more open-minded than her mother. And she knows that her mother is a racist.
Yeah.
Do you know what this is?
What?
It's a picture wrap on this little girl.
No, it's not.
It's not. She comes back. I thought she was done after this.
Nope, we see her again.
Aw, damn. There goes my joke.
We only see her one more time.
Okay. Well, I take my applause back. I'll clap for her later.
So then, Karen violently forbids her daughter from going over to Amani and threatens Amani to leave her effin' family alone. Mm-hmm. And I have effin' in quotes, so she must have said effin' instead of actually using the word.
Yeah.
And then the next scene we see, Karen sees 3, like, young teenage black boys.
Yes.
And...
skateboarding.
yeah, just existing. Mm-hmm. And she wants to see their ID. Mm-hmm. And one of them's like, one of them keeps saying, like, I live here.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have his wallet with him. He, like, left it at his friend's house. So he's like, I don't have my ID. I don't have to show you my ID.
Yeah. You know who my dad is.
And then she calls the cops. And it's very much that Central Park.
Yeah.
The Central Park Karen.
Yes.
Because they're filming her as she freaks out and cries and, like...
I'm very scared right now.
And one of the 3 young men get arrested. But one of the arresting officers is Karen's brother.
Yes.
And while he's, like, arresting them and roughing them up, his partner, the rookie, is trying to get his attention. Because we get the impression the rookie knows who the kid's dad is. And is like, oh, no.
Yeah, we shouldn't do this.
So then... Amani arrives home during this scene, and she is filming the incident. And she is shot and lit to look like this, like, bearer of truth brandishing forth her cell phone. Mm. And she makes eye contact with Mike as she's filming. So, after this happens, Amani wants to move. She no longer wants to be part of this neighborhood. And Malik's like, no, we can stay here. So, that's where they currently stand. Is Amani wants to move and Malik wants to stay. So then we see Sarah, the third grade daughter of Karen, and another little girl playing on a porch as Karen confides in Mike.
Oh, I guess she was in that scene.
Yeah,
there
and
wasn't a picture wrap on her yet.
Mike tries to talk her down, and we get some backstory that, like, black people moved into the suburb where Mike and Karen grew up, and there suddenly was a lot of crime.
Yeah.
So that's why they're like this. And then we find out Mike's daughter's name is Miranda. Like
Yes.
Miranda warning.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's a bit much.
Yeah. All this is weird.
And then we see Karen at another HOA meeting, and she's getting the bad news of being relieved from her post as president of the HOA. Mm-hmm. One of the boys did live in the neighborhood, and his dad is a prominent civil rights lawyer.
Yeah. She's suing the HOA.
And the video of the arrest went viral. The video of her screaming and crying went viral. And then she stumbles out of the meeting and has a sputtering panic attack.
Yeah.
And we then see the lawyer giving a press conference. And this is kind of overlaid with Karen watching the video of herself as she guzzles a glass of wine.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's watching everything. Amani is now suddenly concerned because she took the video that there's going to be retribution. And we find out her brother has a history of misconduct, the cop. And that he's had a long history of brutality reports.
Yeah.
And then Karen has another sputtering, coughing attack, which is how I guess this character has panic attacks.
I guess. I don't know. This is all leading to her feeling like she needs to get retribution.
Yeah.
So she is talking to her brother on the phone, who is sitting outside of a bar where, what's the husband's name again? I'm sorry.
Malik?
Malik. Where Malik is out with one of his friends.
Yeah.
And as soon as he gets into the car, her brother and the Rook turn on the lights to the car and pull him over. And he asks her, are you sure he's going to have marijuana on him?
Yeah.
And she says yes. Mike pulls him over, like, gets the license and registration. There has been a whole, like, through line here of, like, bad things happen to people who don't comply.
Yes.
And they make a big point to have him constantly saying, like, my hands are at 10 and 2. You've asked me for my registration. It is at the glove box.
Yeah.
I am slowly opening it. Here it is. I'm handing it to you. My hands are back at 10 and 2.
Yeah.
Mike still drags him out of the car and seats him on the curb, opens the trunk, reaches into his, like, vest, pulls out a large bag of marijuana, plants it in the trunk, and then pulls it out. Meaning the whole conversation of, like, are you sure he'll have drugs on him, is meaningless. Because he was already planning to plant evidence.
Yeah, because he was BYOing. And the rookie confronts him.
Yes.
And calls him a racist. Mm-hmm. So we kind of get the messaging of this movie is, like, there are good cops.
Yes.
They are just not as well protected as the bad cops.
Yeah, they have this, like, face-off, the Rook and Mike. And Rookie's like...
The Rook. I can tell you played Far Cry 5.
Yeah. The Rook is like, what are you doing out there? And Mike kind of shrugs and goes, when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Which is not a good thing to say.
No.
Like, no one's, like, you don't say that and go, good point. No. Like, that's a thing you say when someone's acting irrationally. And he's like, hey, you're being a racist. And Mike goes, I belong to a secret brotherhood of police. If you speak up against me, you're dead.
Oh, okay.
Good secret brotherhood. In that, when he didn't accept your hammer line as good enough, you immediately divulged its existence.
Yeah.
It's really hard to make jokes about this film, so I hope you guys know how hard I'm trying to bring levity to this.
So Amani the next day bails Malik out, and she's furious with him for smoking weed.
Yes.
And then, and he's got, like, the worst makeup black eye I've ever seen.
Yeah, it looks terrible.
Like, it looks very amateurishly done.
It looks like he looked through a practical joke telescope.
Yeah, like there's not a lot of
Someone
layers
went,
to it.
gotcha.
Yeah, like it's just badly done makeup. Which actually makes a more interesting point to me of it's often the case that for black artists, hair and makeup is not provided as well or as often.
Very true.
But you would think on this movie it would be.
You would think.
So Amani's in filming something on her phone and her car alarm goes off.
Yeah, I forgot about this scene. Karen's just sitting on the hood.
Yeah. And she tries to apologize to Amani and she wants to make amends while still calling Amani you people.
Yes.
And Amani's like, no. And Karen's like, it's not personal. I just don't want black people in this neighborhood. That makes me think that, like, Karen thinks if she asked, Amani would be like, oh, yes, of course I'll move.
This is the thing I was kind of, like, hinting at before. If you had played Karen as so ignorant that she was like, I'm just going to be real. I don't want black people in this neighborhood. You understand, right?
Yeah.
Like, the idea that she earnestly thought she was being reasonable in this conversation would have been like an interesting choice for a film. The issue is, in the previous scene, she framed a man for marijuana possession. Like, we just saw that, so we can't do this part. We can't have... It doesn't make any sense.
So, Malik comes in to talk to Amani, who's now really incensed, and she has changed her mind. They're going to stay, and they're going to lawyer up.
Yes.
So they contact the lawyer...
of the three boys.
Yeah, the father.
The father
of one of the boys. They contact this lawyer, and Karen follows them to the law office, and she realizes this is real bad.
What?
The lawyer doesn't want to take their case until Malik and Amani make it clear that Amani sent the footage to the lawyer of the arrest, and they name Karen specifically.
What happens next is the most insane writing I have ever seen put to film. It is revealed that Karen's husband was a cop. And the quote is, he was killed by that black vigilante that we had a few years ago. I was like, there's a black vigilante in this movie? No, that's a picture wrap. He will never be mentioned again.
No.
Because at this point, I'm like, oh my God, is it the guy who set up the cameras? Is he the black vigilante? Is it her son? That would be a twist. We're going to get a superhero in this film. He's going to show up and be a vigilante.
Well, and then she became an unhinged racist, and she was fired from her job as an elementary school teacher. Which bears the question: if Malik and Amani are worried about the mortgage of this place, how is Karen affording their upper middle class lifestyle?
That's a great question.
And Karen's husband looks exactly like her brother.
Yes, exactly like a racist. Like if you were going to try to cast a racist, this is what you would cast.
So once this comes to light, the lawyer suddenly all about defending Amani and Malik.
Because we're an audio podcast, I want to describe Mike's face to our viewers of what he looks like. He looks like the vacuum cleaner from Brave Little Toaster, but as a racist cop. Like, that's the best I can do. He, like that droopy dog mouth and just very square.
Yes. And it appears he has only ever played cops. Based on IMDb.
Well, he's got to walk around with that face.
Officer Hanson, Officer Wind. So,
I'm sorry, sir, if you're listening.
yeah, apologies to Roger Dorman. You're probably a really nice person.
Roger Dorman, I'm sorry about your face.
So, Amani and Malik are now in their house, and someone knocks. No one's expecting anyone, and I went, well, it's probably your drunk racist neighbor.
Yeah.
Nope, it's the racist cop, but his decent partner is also there.
Yes.
They have a warrant. They find Malik's gun, and he gets arrested again.
Yes.
Now, we don't know anything about the gun. We don't know if he has the gun legally. We don't, we don't get enough background information on the gun.
Yeah, I know owning a gun is legal. I think that's covered in the Constitution. So, this is a thing this movie does a lot, where they don't want to, really explain something, so there's no dialogue.
Yeah.
They just mute the dialogue and music plays. This happens a lot in this film.
So Malik gets arrested again. Amani calls their lawyer, and he promises he's going to go check on Malik, and he runs down to the station. Karen is standing on the porch and cuts the power to Amani's house, breaks a window, points a gun at Amani, and then unlocks the door and lets herself in and starts screaming, "Come on, girlfriend!"
Yes. She has the gun from
Gunsmoke.
Hellboy.
Oh.
Gunsmoke is also good. But that,
old-timey...
big clunky 6-shooter. Far too heavy for this woman to raise.
And, God forbid if she tries to fire it, the back...
Oh, it would rip her arm off.
And the recoil would knock her to the ground. So, we then established that one of the swords that was on the wall is missing.
Yeah, there's this, bit of foreshadow. This is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Please let me just get this out. They had these decorative swords on the wall throughout the whole film. Karen is walking through the house and one of them's missing. So you're okay, she's got a sword. She's hiding on the other side of the doorway. And Karen finds her. And Karen just goes, "Really? You brought a sword to a gunfight?"
Cute. Who brought a sword to a gunfight?
And then Karen gets stabbed.
Yeah.
And she just runs away. I was like, yeah, you kind of screwed that up because the gun lost. And she's just yeah, and run.
Yeah.
I was wait a minute, what happened?
And then Karen shoots shoots 2 shots off wildly.
Yes, because this is technically a horror movie.
Yeah.
And instead of running outside, she runs upstairs.
So then Mike is at the station and hears on his radio that shots were fired on their street, and he drops his box of donuts.
Drops an entire box of donuts.
Because we needed to go with the stereotype, so he had a box of donuts. Karen stalks Amani through the house, and then they fight in the hallway. And the lighting is so bad, we have no idea what's happening.
My understanding is Armani gets the drop on her and starts smashing her face into the ground. Start bashing Karen's face into the ground. And some sort of upbeat music starts playing. And she's talking trash to Karen. And she's punching her. And she's winning. And then she gets up and Karen just still has the gun. And is freeze. It's what? Why did you let her up? When did she get the gun back? Someone doesn't know how to direct an action sequence.
Yeah.
So then Mike shows up and tells the rookie, stay outside.
Yeah. Guard the perimeter.
Guard the perimeter. Mike comes in, gets to Karen. They both have guns and they're just so how do you want to do this?
Yeah. They're trying to figure out to keep their story straight.
Yeah. And it's just I'll say that she attacked me, you protected me, and shot with your gun.
Yeah. She went for your gun and you shot.
Yeah. But they're in her home,
Yeah, it kind of conveniently ignores that, Karen would have had to B&E into her house.
Yeah.
And there's also... I guess because he's a cop and they'd be able to cover it up.
Yeah,
Because there's also signs of a break-in.
Yeah, I'm understanding that, like, I think the point of this is, despite how ridiculous their story is, because they're white and the victim is black, they will get away with it.
Yeah.
I think, but Karen shoots?
Karen shoots Amani and she goes down.
And she goes down, causing the rookie to run in.
Yeah. And the rookie has had enough.
Yeah. Checks Hermione. Hermione's still breathing.
Yeah.
So Mike is just ready to execute her.
Yeah.
And the rookie's like, put your gun down, Mike. And ends up shooting Mike in the head.
They shoot each other.
Yeah.
But Mike doesn't get the rookie as efficiently.
Yeah, it gets him in the vest.
Yeah.
So Mike's dead. And as bad as this movie is, we were both at least like, yeah.
Yeah.
Mike's dead.
And then Karen is about to shoot the rookie in a fit of grief and rage. But then Amani really does go for Mike's gun.
Yeah.
And shoots Karen. And Karen is dead.
Yes.
So then the good cop and Amani are taken to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
In this, we established that, like, Malik didn't make it to the police station at one point, and so the lawyer is looking for Malik, and then that plotline is gone.
It's just gone.
The next time we see Malik, it is during a press conference with the lawyer and with someone who looks like it might be, like, the DA, because the guy speaking is not the lawyer.
Right.
And Malik and Amani are suing, and, like, they're suing everybody. And then we flash forward, and Amani is heavily pregnant. She's in a sling during the press conference. And then we flash forward, and Amani is heavily pregnant with Malik standing in the house, and they stare down the lens.
Yes. You totally skipped over when they are talking about how they're suing and how justice will be served and racists should be stopped. That there's a dude right next to the microphone just with a trumpet.
Yes.
Killing it. And I just wanted this guy to be like, I'm in the middle of my speech. Please stop with the trumpet. Then the credits starts, and it looks like a Bond movie.
Yeah, the credits are... The way credits are supposed to work is they're supposed to kind of get you out of... Like, they're supposed to be kind of the come down.
Right.
Where, like, you're getting back into the real world after watching this movie. This is, like, a jarring music video that tonally does not fit.
Yeah. Do you remember the old iPod commercials?
Yes, with Feist.
Yeah, with the black silhouettes, like, over different colors.
Yeah.
That just happens for some reason.
Yes.
And Laura wanted me to turn it off, but I was like, no, I must learn the name of the man who wrote this. And the writer is also the director and also the producer, and his name is Coke Daniels.
Okay, do you know something about him?
Well, first off, his name's Coke Daniels. I looked him up. He has a couple other films that I didn't really recognize. He has a film out called, like, The Highway, which is like a stoner comedy.
Yeah.
Of some sort. I do have other research.
Okay.
I went on IMDb. This movie had 2 bits of trivia in it.
Yes.
And they're both hilarious. Did you look this up?
Yes.
One, despite their similar plot lines, this is not a remake of Lakeview Terrace. Which sounds to me like they were trying to get buzz by being like, yeah, it's like Lakeview Terrace. You guys remember that? Samuel L. Jackson. Night Owl. That's a movie you remember. And this is the 4th film based off of a meme. What are those other films? I was going to surprise you with a game show, but you already looked it up.
I've already forgotten, but I remember what one of them is.
Yeah, it is
The Grumpy Cat movie.
Grumpy Cat's Christmas Special. Smiley, which I don't actually think was a meme.
I think it was like a creepypasta.
I thought they created their own for it. Like, I don't know. And Safety Not Guaranteed.
Oh, yeah.
With Aubrey Plaza, which is actually an awesome film.
This was nominated for a lot of
Razzies.
It was nominated for Worst Picture. It was nominated for Worst Director for Coke Daniels. No Worst Actor, because admittedly, the actors do a decent job. The male actors do a decent job.
Yeah.
Worst Actress, Taryn Manning for Karen.
Yeah.
And there's also Worst Prequel, Remakes, Ripoff, or Sequel. Karen is nominated for this being an inadvertent remake of Cruella, which I don't really get.
I'm guessing this is a bit.
Yeah.
But I don't quite get the
Oh, and
bit.
there's Worst Screenplay, too.
Yeah. We vote, on Friday?
Yeah, voting begins Friday.
I mean, it's a contender for me for a couple of these categories after seeing these films.
Yeah, I think, looking at it, I think I would give it Worst Actress over the actress who played Diana and over Amy Adams.
Yeah.
Amy Adams is acting her butt off. It's just still a bad movie. And besides, if I really want to vote for Amy Adams, I can vote for her for Worst Supporting Actress.
Yes, in Dear Evan Hansen. I think this brings me to what is my new rant about the Razzies.
Okay.
Because I realized something about the Razzies. The Razzies are not what I wanted them to be.
Right.
That, or they're not what they used to be. Because, I think back when I first started doing this, when I was like, I'm going to watch all the Razzie movies, and I was watching things like The Lone Ranger.
Yeah.
I really feel like, and I love this scale, don't rank movies from 0 to 10.
Yes.
Rank movies from -10 to 10. A 10 is a amazing film.
Yeah, a 10 is an objectively
is a Shawshank
incredible
Redemption
film.
is your Godfathers. A -10 is The Room.
Yeah,
where it's bad, but it's so enjoyable.
Yeah, I would fold Diana.
Yes.
The James Hewitt number of Diana is a -10.
Yeah, there's definitely...
In the best way.
I think, Dear Evan Hansen to me is a -10. And to me, I want the Razzies to be what is the best worst movie.
Yeah.
What is that -10? But I feel like, especially in this last couple years, it hasn't been that. It's the zeros. What are the ones that have no redeeming value at all? And, I think back to, what used to win. Catwoman won. Catwoman's a -8.
Yeah.
Catwoman is not a 0 film.
No.
It's a -8.
Oh, yeah, that
There's
basketball
a whole
scene.
basketball scene in it.
Cats is definitely
Cats
a
is
negative.
a -10. So, if I am voting for which one of these should win Worst Picture, that's a -10, closest to a -10, it's probably Diana.
Yeah.
Space Jam, I think, might be close.
Using last year's example, for us, 365 days was closer to a -10.
Yes.
Music, cigarette.
Potato. But, I want it to be that. That's what I want the Razzies to be. This movie is the best of the worst films. Karen is so close to a 0. There's ideas in here. I don't even think there are ideas in here. I think this is the vision this guy wanted to put out, and it's bad. When I think what a Karen movie should be, I think of 9 things that is none of this happens.
It's just so clumsy. I think you could have really done it with Karen working in the system. But she doesn't really work in the system. She immediately goes weirdly vigilante.
What I really would want out of a Karen movie is the first couple moments to be her getting her way, using her privilege, like being annoying, getting things she doesn't deserve, not seeing the error of any of the things she does. And then the last third of this movie should be Home Alone violence happening to her. That's what a Karen movie should be.
So I pulled up the Rotten Tomatoes, and it has a 17% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yes.
And, like, bad review. Even one of the good reviews they say is, like, it's kind of trashy but fun in the exploitation film kind of way, which, when that's one of your good reviews.
Yeah.
But there is one review that says all of the right people are going to hate it, especially Karens. And it's this little-known journalist who has a podcast called I Like to Movie. Called Dan Scully.
Hey, Dan.
And it's labeled as one of the positive reviews for Rotten Tomatoes for critic reviews. And so I wanted to, it's one of only 4 fresh reviews for Karen. So I wanted to do that to you.
Another thing,
because two of the other ones, the blurb mentions the word trash.
And they're people that are basically, they have this film in the -8 scale rather than towards a 0. Another thing I would have loved, and this is going to be a weird comparison, but go on the ride with me.
Okay.
There was a video game that came out called Video Game Producer Simulator, where basically it was a sim game where you made a video game. And all of these negative reviews came out, and like people complaining and asking for help online about all these guys who were playing this game. They couldn't get past level 2 because every time they made a game, it got pirated.
Yeah.
And they couldn't, like, they kept trying to combat it, and there was like mechanics in the game to combat it, but they could never do it, and they would always go out of business. So it was filled with all of these like reviews about how hard it is and stuff like that. And then the person who created the game came out and said, that only happens if you pirated the game.
Ooh.
So it was a little thing that was included in this game that outed all these pirates. I would have loved to have seen a Karen movie that would have made a Karen go, she didn't deserve all that. She was just doing what was right for her family, and it just outed all the Karens.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I like. There's so many things you can do with this film, and this film does none of it. It does nothing.
One of the things I did like is it resisted the urge to make Malik and Amani perfect.
True.
And that was one of the few things I did like about this film, of it avoided like that Amani and Malik had to be saints to be worth protecting. It's like, no, they're people who've made mistakes. Malik probably shouldn't be smoking pot if it's illegal.
Yeah.
But nothing they do warrants their treatment. Mm-hmm. But I liked that the movie did not make them absurdly perfect. Like, they didn't make her like a kindly kindergarten teacher.
Yes.
And him like an upstanding... he is a community activist.
He is a community activist.
But they didn't make him... They don't really spend a lot of time talking about that part of his life.
They didn't sanctify them the way they demonized Karen.
Yes.
And it's just...
But I like that they didn't sanctify them, because I don't like the idea of, like, the only people of color worth protecting are, quote, quote, the good ones.
Right.
Like, so I like that these were flawed characters. The actors did a good job.
Yeah. Other than Karen.
Yeah, I would actually say all the actors except for Taryn Manning did a good job.
Yes. Even Mike. I believed he was a racist douchebag.
Oh, that poor man.
That poor man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about your face.
So where does this stand? You were talking about the Razzies and that -10 scale. Mm. And this is such a movie that gets the Razzies' attention.
Yeah.
Because the Razzies have started to become, they just kind of like kicking movies when they're down.
I'm kind of in this zone, because now we have a vote. We vote on the Razzies.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm picking the 0 here, I'm probably picking Karen.
Yeah.
But I don't want to pick Karen.
For me, I think I disliked I disliked Woman in the Window. It's labeled Watching from the Window in my notes.
Right.
I disliked Woman from the Window more.
Right.
But Karen is still also very bad.
That being said, when it comes to voting, I'm probably going to vote Diana. Because I want the Razzies to be what film is the -10.
Yes.
Because, like, what I do when I'm like, I want to watch all the Razzie nominees is kind of a rarity.
Yeah.
But let's watch what won Worst Picture is not a rarity.
Yeah.
That's a college party. And I want that movie to be Diana.
Yeah.
I don't want a bunch of kids playing beer pong with this on in the background.
No. Diana was fun. I would say Diana was my favorite of the 5.
Yeah, so I think that's what I'm going to do as a voter.
Yeah.
Is I'm going to try to vote for the -10s and not vote for the 0s.
I agree.
And, like, 0s are definitely worse than
Yes,
-10.
I agree. Like, but 0, you don't enjoy anything about it.
Yahtzee said this on Zero Punctuation, which is one of my favorite YouTube channels, because he does his top 5 best, worst, and blandest games of the year.
Yeah.
And he released a video where it was like, blandest is so much worse than worst.
Because you can find something to enjoy.
Well, because the point of media, the point of video games, the point of movies is to make you feel something. And if a movie makes you feel disgust or, like, anger towards it or frustration, it's so much better than making you feel nothing for 2 hours. So, yeah, I want to vote for the -10. So I'm gonna put I'm gonna give a -10 to Diana, a -9 to Space Jam. I didn't enjoy Space Jam. Space Jam's like a -5.
Yeah.
Then what's the one that I'm missing?
Infinite.
Infinite. Infinite might be like a -6.
Yeah, Infinite did have some... Jason Mantzoukas really saves Infinite.
Yeah. I could put it at a -6. I could also put it at like a 4.
Yeah.
Like, there's definitely parts where I'm like, this is like legitimately good, despite all the badness around it. And then Woman in the Window, I'd give like a 1. And then Karen, I would give a 0.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. So, what are we watching next week?
As voted by our patrons, we are looking for the oldest pilot we can find. And we did some searching, and I found a unaired pilot that aired in 1950.
An unaired pilot that was produced in 1950.
Yeah, I guess it didn't air.
Yeah.
That was produced in 1950. It's called Let's Join Joni. And that is all we know about it.
Yep.
So that's as old as we could go. We couldn't, like, if you could find something from the 1940s, let us know and we will do it sometime.
Which would be difficult because TV doesn't really take off until...
Yes. Well, I'm going to be talking about why we don't have a lot of old TV as well, because that's very interesting.
Ooh.
Yeah, like there's going to be cool stuff. And then after that, we're going to do whatever wins the other poll. But at time of recording, I don't even know if we put that on Twitter yet. So whatever that is will be coming next. Be sure to check out our Patreon where you can vote on the things that I just mentioned. You can also hear our bonus episode. Coming soon will be our Reality Roundtable where we're talking about reality television and how it affected our lives.
Yeah. And how we got into it. Because I have a more circuitous route than you do.
Yes. Where can people find us?
You can email us at thestaydoomedshow@gmail.com or on Facebook and Twitter at Stay Doomed.
And if you are part of the Razzie voting committee, I'm at +2 Comedy.
If you are just here to have fun with the bad movies and kind of wish you didn't need to watch the really unenjoyable ones, I'm at Bean Bunny Lives. Until next time, stay doomed.